Alright, welcome. This is a gear review I'm doing. This is the part 2 of the Steez AIR series that I'm doing. On paper, like I said, it looks pretty sweet. I'm gonna see how it is on the water. I know the guy that I got it from, Sagisi Customs, like I said, he has a different opinion that I think I'm gonna have. So looking forward to checking that out. But if you want to see other gear reviews like this for BFS, we'll be doing a ton because trout season is coming up. Make sure you subscribe. Also comment below if you want to see all the things done with this reel. But here's some close-ups right here. Outside on the rod. But that's not what this video is about. This video is about actually seeing how it performs. I'm going to be comparing this to the Steez CT SVTW with that the Roro spool.
Alright, so the first lure I have on here, this is the Z-Man tubes made of that Elays tech, and also a 1/15 ounce Ned head. So the total weight's probably going to be about 1/8 of an ounce or so. So let's try that out first. I'm going to have the brakes on 10. This is 4-pound Tatsu fluorocarbon that I'm using right now. It's a little raspy sounding on the cast. That retrieve isn't as bad as it sounded before. I'll do a couple more casts on 10. Spool definitely has a lot of control, I can tell for sure. And like I said, that retrieve isn't nearly as raspy feeling as it was without line. I'm going to crank it down to about 7. I don't know if it's the T-wing system that this has or what, but something went across the water over there. I'm gonna cast over this, see if I can get something. But this is about the weight lure that the reel is actually designed for. Doing that, I'm gonna make sure my drag's set too. It's for that finesse approach, like that you'd usually use spinning gear with for bass. So that's throwing like shaky heads and stuff. That's what this reel is really designed for, and that's kind of what it's marketed for in Japan. As far as using it in streams for trout and stuff like that, not really marketed like that as much. I mean, I'd definitely use it for sure, just by how I tell that this is casting so far. And it feels like it palms a little bit smaller, as you can see, than the Steez CT SVTW. It's a lot of abbreviations there. All right, so this seemed like it's pretty. I mean, I'm not really gonna beat the bush too much. Actually, you know what? Before I switch lures to something lighter, I'm gonna set it to 14. I'm gonna try some skipping. It should skip. I'm guessing it should skip better than my SS Air, just because it has the T-wing system right there and a little bit more narrow spool, but you never know. Ooh, that's buttery smooth. Even at like those casts that they kind of have those big hops like that, so it's a little bit more abrupt, and it should fluff up your spool more. It doesn't fluff this up at all. Well, that was a bad one. And something else I like to do just for fun is actually trying to backlash a reel, which, I mean, this is at 14, and I've done some not so great casts so far, and it's been completely fine. Like, oop, got one there. But it wasn't nearly as bad as it could have been, for sure. It should pick up pretty easy. This line's old anyway, so I don't really care if it gets kinked up. And it's almost out. One thing when you're picking out backlash is you want to make sure that your line isn't going to be stacked up too much. So what I do is I grab my line like that, run it through a different guide, so you have 2 different loops going through. If you let it all pile up by your feet, you're gonna have a real messy time reeling that back in. Okay, it's out now. Just put a mild amount of tension, not too much. Just because how the fluorocarbon has a little bit of stretch to it. That stretch will just keep getting added up, that little bit of stretch pressure. And people say it could crush your spool. I don't know if it actually will or not. Okay, a couple more skips and then we'll move to something lighter. I think I have to loosen the brakes a little bit, that's my problem.
Put down to 12. Generally, I like to skip with looser brakes. There we go. Much better. Yep. Seems like no problem skipping. I actually might skip a little bit better than the SS Air.
Alright, I got a Rapala CD1 on here, put a single hook on there. This is my bread and butter bait when I'm out stream fishing. So if I'm going to test any lure to see if this is worth the buy for me, it's going to be this lure. So, end with this rod. Oh, I forgot I had the brakes up more. So for me, I like to actually have, like when I'm in stream situations where I'm fishing to tight cover and all that stuff, I like to actually have my brakes pretty loose. So that way it's a real flat trajectory. I'm not messing around with like arcing line or over braking or anything like that. Yeah, it's still a little bit too much brake. So I have it down. This is out of 20, by the way, the brake dial. I know some other, like the SS Air, I'm pretty sure it like skips, so it's a little bit different. I think it's up to 10 and then does like 10.5 or whatever. But so this is at 5, so this is 25% brakes no matter how you have it. Ooh, that thing went out there pretty good. Still had a little bit of an arc to it. I know there's some wind out there. And the spool is set to barely have any side-to-side play. That's how I always have my spools. So let me put it down to 4. Ooh, that's fast. That was a big difference. Wow.
I was not expecting that. That's where I'd like it. And I'm not usually casting out that far, so it's a little bit skewed, but that definitely caught me by surprise. Going from 4 to 5 was a huge jump. That's why it's important too to always make sure that you actually get out and you test the limits of your gear. It doesn't matter if you have a Daiwa that has SV brakes on it or one of the Shimano's with the DC brakes. You always want to get out and test the limits of your reel.
So this is still on 4. Oh no, I put up to 5. So I'm gonna put it back on 4. This is where I had it where a backlash. So I'm just gonna try gentle cast. Ooh, that is still cooking. Let me get down to 5. Yeah, that's really fast.
One thing I don't like, and it's kind of not fair to compare reels this way. Some people say, oh, I can set reel A down to like 2 brakes and cast it versus like reel B I'd have to set to like 4 brakes. Well, it doesn't really matter how you compare them. Like, that's not really a fair way to compare it though, because the reels are different. So you don't want to, like, doesn't mean that the reel that you can use with the least amount of brakes is the best reel. It's just, I don't know, it's just all performance, how easy it is to get the distance and also how easy it is to get to your target. It doesn't matter if you have all the brakes on or none of them. Yeah, that's like where I'd actually kind of like it. It doesn't seem like it because that's my 3rd backlash in a row, but it's really fast at when. Oh, that's at 5 too. How did I cast at 5 before? Let me turn up to 6.
My line, when you hear that sound, it's the line that gets caught in the side.
Which, that has not happened to me since the 2015 Aldebaran BFS, like the limited one. It's like red and black. So that's not good. But this is a really thin fluorocarbon, but I haven't had that happen in a long time. Alright. I'm just going to try some nice, easy, like stream casts here. Actually, I might tighten my tension knob up slightly.
Yeah, Yeah, that's still really fast in a good way. Ooh, yikes. Almost went in the drink. I just had to tighten up that side-to-side play a little bit. That's kind of odd. I usually generally always have it with barely any side-to-side play, but so let me loosen it. So this says 0 adjuster, but you can still adjust it. It's just harder to adjust. Okay, now let me do that and just turn it up 1 brake. Yeah, it's fast. It's not, and that's nice. Like once I get used to it.
That seemed to help. I gotta get some like irregular casting in here.
This is how I am getting the same exact, it's not the same like, oh, we're using 4-pound Tatsu here. No, we're using the same exact 4-pound Tatsu, which I have backing on here. So I need a little bit of line. So it takes a little bit of a process. So what I already did was I put, this is the bottom of this spool. So in order for me to get the bottom of this spool onto the CT, I had to put the line onto another reel. I just have a slip knot here, which I should have left a longer tag.
Alright, this is my Steez CT right here. This is with that Roro spool. As you can see, it's pretty shallow. It's about half the depth, which that doesn't tell the whole story. This spool also has a fixed inductor, so I'm gonna start it at 10. I have it barely any side-to-side play, just like I did for the air. This is the same exact line as you saw. I took the line off, put it back on, had to like play musical line, but anyway, it's the same exact line, the same spot, everything. So I'm gonna use the same lure. Well, it was about the same. I felt like I had a little bit more control. I generally don't like fixed inductor spools, just because when I'm trying to cast really short, I don't want those brakes to be on.
And a lot of times those brakes turn on, well, every time they turn on because the inductor is stuck out. But it does give you good control with wind. That is one thing I'll say. But all right, let me turn down to 7. Why not?
See what happens. It seems to cast just as good. I could tell the difference in smoothness between the CT and that air. I don't know if it's just like it was a bad air and a really good CT or whatever, but definitely smoother. And the retrieve looks about the same. I know the numbers. Guy I got it from, Sagisi Customs, he did some bench testing stuff for me because I was asking a million questions, probably the same questions that a lot of you guys have. Yeah, it's pretty controlled. That's on 7, getting pretty decent distance. But I was asking, hey, well, what does this look like? What is this? And started talking about the retrieve rate. I was like, hey, that 9-to-1 gear ratio looks pretty good. And he was like, well, I did some testing, and the 8.1 CT was actually slightly faster because of the spool difference. This is a 30 millimeters diameter spool. The air has a 28 millimeter spool. So that little bit of difference makes enough to that an 8.1 is faster with 30 millimeter versus a 9.1 and 28. Yeah, it's very, very controlled. I'll kick it down to 6. I'm getting about the same distance as I was with the air. It seems slightly faster with these speeds. Yeah, a lot less thumbing and about the same distance. So big picture, you can say, oh, this thing casts better, but there's a lot of small intricacies. I'm going to try a couple pitches here.
Well, that's actually pitches good still. That's one of the situations that I really don't like a fixed inductor is pitching, because it's a slow spool method, and also what it does is you're using your thumb for brake the whole time, so you don't really want that much brake. That's like what Daiwa's kind of toting with their the Tatula Elite, like the flip and pitch series. That's probably, it's not like fixed, it's probably like the inductor doesn't come out very easy under, yeah, that's no problem right there, under slow spool. But then when if you go to cast, then the inductor will come out and you get braking. Yeah, that was a lot better. Yeah, and that was a lot of control on that. Oh, not quite to my backing yet, but I don't have very much main line on here. I did break off a couple times, but I don't put that much on here because usually I'm fishing stuff smaller than this, usually streams. So I'm not going to load up a whole bunch of fluorocarbon. Yeah, that's just wailing into it. I am getting further.
This is actually when I was mentioning him on Instagram, just sliding DMs back and forth. He was saying that they're kind of neck and neck, but this is this spool, this Roro spool with the CT is actually slightly better. I'm like I said, I'm not concerned with like going out to a football field per se and like, oh, this got this much distance, this got this much distance, because I don't care really under controlled environment. It's nice to know, but under controlled environments, I'm not really, because you don't fish in controlled environments. You fish with wind, you fish on the water, you have targets, all that stuff. Like, I can really give a rip if a reel can cast 50 yards, like a BFS reel can cast 50 yards. If I can't put it on target, I don't care. Yeah, that is just so fun. I'm ripping into that thing. The wind's a little bit at my back right now too, but it was before, so there's no real advantage with the wind. If anything, there's a little bit less wind now. All right, I'm gonna try some skips. This is where the that fixed inductor should come into play. So I'll put it on 14, just like how it was on the Air. So it's not gonna be the same exact because there's different brakes, like magnets in there, so it's not gonna be quite the same, but I'll at least try it out anyway. That was good.
I am going to do a couple more skips just because it was fun. Oh yeah, just under a dock. I could probably turn the brakes down a little bit too. Turn down to 12, I'll do a couple more, and then I'll get to that CD1. Ooh. See, that was bad? Look at that, nothing. That was actually really, really bad cast. And my thumb's starting to get cold, so it's not as in tune. Yeah, that's no problem.
This is actually performing nice. Although it's right-handed though, that's the thing that's gonna bother me, because I don't like casting right-handed reels in the streams, because you gotta be quick right back on the reel. Oh, that was kind of like how it was with the Air. Not. Oh wow, I will swap lures here. So far it hasn't been too bad. It's been I'd say kind of neck and neck. I was impressed with the distance of that Roro spool though. It actually performed quite well for distance.
So this is where my reel testing is, right here. CD1. I know it's not the lightest lure, it's not the lightest BFS lure, but this is the lure I use a lot, and I need a reel that can cast as accurate as possible to the tiny little rocks or boulders or underneath trees that I need it to happen. So let's see how this goes. Put my brakes back to, oh, wrong way, back to 10. Get a couple test casts out there. I'd say I got more distance on 10. Casting about the same speed out there. Okay, let me crank it down to 8. There's a little bit of loose line in there from before when I was skipping.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't remember exactly how much these Roro spools cost, but it'd be a little bit less money to get this reel with this spool, and then you'd have the stock spool as well. So if you can go back and forth versus that Air, you got kind of a one-trick pony, and honestly, not as good as this. Like, or not enough, not so much better to justify the price. What I like is that, I mean, both of them have it, but like the T-Wing system, I think it does help a little bit with that BFS casting because you don't have a big heavy bass jig that's going to be pulling line as easy. So any sort of friction that you can eliminate is going to help you with that BFS skipping. So I think the T-Wing is actually really nice, and that's the biggest thing I can tell the difference with that and with the SS Air. Yeah, this is kind of what I was gonna start to worry about. Is with that fixed inductor. When I try these short casts like that, I was talking about like underneath trees and such. The brake's on, so it's gonna kind of have the lure hang a little bit. Let's let some of that twist get out. Okay. Let me see. Oh, okay. It got a little bit lower when I turned the brakes down, which is to be expected. That I would be using less brake because the inductor is stuck in the out position, so it's always going to have brake. Versus when you have an inductor that pops out due to the speed of it spinning, the brakes are gonna taper and turn on and off. So with this, I actually might have to turn the brakes down lower, which I don't really like because then if I want to do a long cast, I have to turn the brakes up a little bit. That's why I like having the inductor that moves because I could do a short little cast like this, brakes not turn on, and then I could just turn around and do a big cast and don't have to adjust my brakes. All right, turn it down to 3 now. I got a little away from me. I wasn't really paying attention to it, but not too bad. All right. It does get real quick when you get down to 3. But remember with the Air, it actually casts better when I didn't have it a little bit of side-to-side play. So maybe I'll tighten it up just barely. Okay. I don't know. I think I'm gonna. That's kind of the same thing I did with the Alpha's Airstream Custom. I liked it all around, and with especially a little bit heavier lures. But when I got down to like using the CD1, it did that. It had the lure hang just because it constantly has those brakes on, which will help you in a lot of situations. But I don't know. I definitely need more time to be able to tune myself into it. Maybe if I was using a little bit less of a rod as well, but like it's not terrible. It's definitely good for a fixed inductor spool, and for the price. Oh, now it's doing it better. Yeah, I'd say I could definitely get used to this spool. Yeah, for sure. Let me just do I'll probably backlash, but let me just do a max distance cast. Turn it up to 5 to be safe. I let one rip out.
Pretty respectable distance with the CD1.
So yeah, if you already have a Steez CT like I got here, just get the Roro spool and put your mind to rest. And then you can always flip it back, flip the reel back and forth if that's what you want to do. Steez Air, I don't know if it's worth the coin, to be honest. I was really hyped. I thought it was going to be like next generation goodness. Like, I was like, wow, that's a 28 millimeter spool. I mean, it's pretty shallow. It's a little bit less line capacity than like your normal BFS reels, and has a T-wing system. It's even smaller frame than this. Comes in a 9-to-1 gear ratio, but 9-to-1 gear ratio doesn't really matter because this reel is actually faster with this spool. They cast about the same. If anything, this thing gets a little bit better with distance. As far as the two lures I've used, now you might be able to use different lures and you might have different results, but skipping, both are really good at skipping. This, I don't know. I think maybe they're about the same. I'd say it's about a draw. Let's see what else. This has a much better looking handle. I don't know if you saw the handle in the first video, but it looks very cheap, especially for like a $500 to $600 reel, depending on where you're looking at. It looks very cheap, like probably the cheapest I've seen in a long time. And yeah, and it doesn't have that big obnoxious D right here, which that's just looks. I just go off of performance because looks is very subjective. Performance, it's a little bit less subjective. So yeah, if that's all I can really say. I mean, it's for me. If this was left-handed, I would keep this and just get a Roro spool and be done. But not the case. So SS Air will still have a home on this rod. I actually don't have the back on here. I don't know if you noticed that, but I meant to chop some of this rod off, but then I forgot to bring the rest of the rod, so it's not a big deal right now. So this will be shortened up so I can get some good wrist articulation in there. But thanks for watching. I'm just rambling now, kind of cold. So if you like the comparison video, please like it. Also, comment down below on what else you want to see. I do have some more BFS stuff I'm going to be coming out with. So if you want to see like certain things, like hey, how do you skip with BFS? How do you do whatever? Just let me know.